Alright, today we're going to be reacting to The Unspeakable Horrors of the Deep Sea, featuring Lindsay Nicole, by Casual Geographic. I am excited for this one because I like the ocean, I like marine life, so I'm interested to see what he thinks Unspeakable Horrors of the Deep Sea means, and if I'll find any of them cute. So before I start, make sure you go check out the original video and Casual Geographic. There'll be a link to both at the top of the description. Give this video a view and a like. And with that being said, let's get started. Oh, I like his shirt. Jellyfish shirt. That's nice.
Probably heard me say that I'd rather eat 10 pounds of Popeye's biscuits with no drink than ever go out into the ocean. Well, I'd rather ride cross-country on a bike with a hot grill for a seat than spend half a second in the deep sea. There's a lot of living nightmares and paralysis demons come to life if you sink deep enough. And the Megalodon is not one of them. You'll often hear this thing about how the prehistoric apex predator never got discontinued. It's just chilling a step above hell in the abyss. This is cap. For three good reasons. One, there just isn't enough food to sustain a 60-foot you to the natural
way
world.
Too big.
Two, if nature did keep the same jumbo jaws that peaked in the Pliocene, we at least would have seen a body by now. And number three, why do y'all want this to be alive so bad? I promise you there's way worse things down there. Like, I would evacuate my bowels if I ever saw a giga great white shark. But put me in front of a T-posing squid and I'm shitting more bricks than the entire city of Newark. The big fin squid is easily one of the most disturbing things alive as I'm saying this. It's a T-posing predator with arms estimated to max out at just under 30 feet.
Pretty long
Scientists believe the big
arms.
fin catches bodies by dragging those arms, which can be easily 20 times its own body length, along the ocean floor like trawling nets and feeding on whatever poor soul accidentally.
It's kind of cute. Look at him. It's kind of cute, right? Just ignore the spaghetti tentacles. It's kind of cute.
Bumps into them. You're gonna hear me say believe or we think a lot, and that's because
just a little guy.
We don't know a whole lot about them. Almost every sighting and virtually every specimen studied were either juveniles or paralarvae. We have no way of knowing exactly what their final form could look like. For all we know, this could be juniors, and we just haven't seen Mama Big Fin yet. Who would have thought that just putting elbows on a squid would instantly turn it into the spawn of Satan? And if you thought the big fin was just this slow, passive floating predator, then you're seriously underestimating the ocean's ability to massacre your mental health.
Oh, it's still
and if
cute.
you're curious, this video
not.
was taken about 7,000 feet down in the Gulf of Mexico. But considering they're believed to be the deepest living squids at about 20,000 feet, I have a theory. This is a juvenile, and the big boys are the ones shacking it up down in the crotch of the ocean. But good news, the big fin probably only feeds on small fish and crustaceans. Bad news, there are squids big enough to beef with the biggest predators on the planet. And the biggest predator on the planet that isn't a disgraced former YouTuber is the sperm whale. Which on its own would have to be one of the most traumatizing things to witness during their 2-hour hunting expeditions down in the deep sea. Well, the tankiest carnivore on Earth regularly runs fades with the giant squid. And by giant, we're talking about calamari growing to an estimated 40 feet long. Not only are they themselves predators that hunt using 20-foot tentacles, they're opportunistic cannibals that would 100% murk their entire family reunion for some calories.
Is that weird?
Now, nature high-key screwed up their character design. They have a donut-shaped brain and an esophagus running through it, meaning if they swallow something big enough, not only do they run the risk of choking to a flatline, they can also factory reset their entire personality through severe brain damage. Which is why they mitigate this by shredding their victims with a razor-sharp beak and what is essentially a tongue with teeth, the radula. That beak is such a weapon that you'll rarely see a sperm whale that hasn't been tattooed during a struggle with a giant squid. And while the plus-size cephalopod usually loses in a war with the whale, they do not make it easy. But the most disturbing thing about them is that eye. Giant squids have the most physically imposing eye in nature, with it being roughly the size of
it's kind of cute. Look at him.
A soccer ball. Contrary to popular belief, huge eyes don't exactly help it see
further,
but it does mean they're terrifyingly good at noticing objects giving off their own light, which is a lifesaver since when their biggest optosperm whale is on the hunt, modern-day Leviathan disturbs glowing creatures like jellyfish and crustaceans who flash in response. Having eyes as big as our heads means the giant squid can detect and use those flashes to avoid becoming a corpse. But that also means that if you ever go swimming in the Giga Squid's area code, the flashes you'd create mean that while you might not see it, the same animal that does its own kind dirty would know exactly where you are. And honestly, there's only one thing that could be worse than getting stalked by a school bus-sized headfoot. There's another squid with hunting tactics so spiritually upsetting, I'm not even going to talk about it. I'm going to go ahead and use a lifeline.
Okay, that's fair.
The Humboldt squid, also known as the red devil. I'm Lindsay, by the way.
Hey, Lindsay.
Humboldt squid are found in the eastern Pacific Ocean, typically
Oh
between
yeah.
600
Are the Humboldt squids? No, the other one was. I reacted to another one of these, and there was a squid called Diablo Rojo. That a Humboldt squid?
to 2,300 feet below the
Think
surface
so.
of the ocean. And their nickname comes from the way they use their pigment cells called chromatophores to
Yeah.
communicate. You're probably familiar with chromatophores through videos of different cephalopods
Oh,
using
little
them to
cuttlefish.
change color, blending into their surroundings, and even dreaming. And Humboldt squid notably use them to turn bright red when they're aggravated,
Yeah.
hence the nickname Red Devil.
Okay,
It's
yeah,
very
Red
on brand.
Devil.
They're also extremely predatory and
What
have
is
been
the
known to
same?
act aggressively towards scuba divers on rare occasion,
Yeah.
which becomes a bit more terrifying when I tell you that they can get to 8 feet long and 100 pounds. Now you might be thinking, Lindsay, that is not that big. What about the giant squid and the colossal squid that can
Well, the
both
problem
get to
is
like
their
40
numbers.
feet long? Well, I haven't told you the best part yet. The Humboldt
Yeah.
squid is known to live and hunt in groups of up to 10.
Nope.
No. Up to 100?
Nope.
No. 1,000?
Yep.
Yes. In groups of over 1,000. 1,000 squid. That's
Yeah.
about 990 too many if you ask me. While hunting in these groups, they use their chromatophores to communicate with each other, coordinating movements and attacks, allowing
is
them
an
to take
acceptable
down
amount,
larger
though.
prey, dragging them into the depths until they go unconscious. Scientists have identified some of these communication patterns, as you can see in this little chart, but still don't know exactly what any of them mean. But regardless, that sounds like
Interesting.
one of the worst ways to be unalived in the ocean. Oh wait, this isn't a TikTok collaboration. That sounds like one of the worst ways to die in the ocean.
Yeah.
So as you can see, whether it's being confronted by a Humboldt block party or squaring up with a live action Kraken, there are many aspects of the deep sea that end up with you putting your therapist up a tax bracket. And a lot of that's because of this cute little thing known as deep sea gigantism. The idea that the cold temperature, the dissolved
This is a
oxygen,
fake-
and the lack of pressure from predators allow some animals to escalate to the biggest and most terrifying versions of themselves. Exhibit A, the Japanese spider crab,
Ooh,
which can
that's a
measure 12 feet
long
across claw to
boy.
claw and weigh as much as a human toddler. Only thing worse than a giant spider crab is a giant crab
Ooh, major spider warning.
This is an Antarctic sea spider, a dinner plate-sized demon spawn that hunts by sucking the life out of its prey through its proboscis. Now technically, they're not actual
what now?
spiders, but also I imagine most people watching technically don't give a especially since this one looks like it identifies as a face hugger.
Yeah,
Then
I
there's
don't-
a giant
I don't like that
isopod,
one.
which is essentially an aquatic
Why is there a
cockroach
giant
cradled like a
isopod?
baby. No clue why you would though.
Oh,
And if you're
look at
looking
that
for
little
a truly
guy.
Supersized animal crossing, the oarfish should be on your list. The giant oarfish can grow to well over 30 feet long, and there have even been claims of those in the neighborhood of 50 feet. Proof that back in the day when we had stories about sea monsters, they weren't lying, they
Kinda
just didn't
cool
have all the
looking, though.
names yet. Also, if you caught that pun earlier, we're friends now. But with deep sea
Wait.
gigantism and all of 50 feet. Proof that back in the day when we had stories about sea monsters, they were names of fish should be on your list. Though. And if you're looking for a truly supersized animal crossing, the oarfish should be on your list. The giant
Supersized
oarfish can
Animal
grow to well over
Crossing.
30 feet long. There have
You can
even
catch
been
these
claims
guys
of
in
those
Animal
in the
Crossing.
neighborhood of 50 feet. Proof that back in the day when we had stories about sea monsters, they weren't lying, they just didn't have all the names yet. Also, if you caught that pun earlier, we're friends now.
I
But with
gotcha,
deep
I
sea
gotcha.
gigantism and the endless expansive ocean acting as a canvas for Shaitan to practice his art, if you dive deep enough, there be monsters. For
Oh, yeah.
example,
What
this.
the heck
This
is that?
isn't an animal. It's a group of animals joined together in something like a hive mind. So we're not talking about it. We're talking about them. And siphonophores like this come in
Yeah,
many forms. Like the
siphonophores.
Portuguese man of war armed with
Oh.
venom to ensure that the excruciating experience of meeting one is permanently etched into your brain. And there's a Priodubia, a giant siphonophore
I didn't
that
know
can
the
flex a total
man-o-wars
length
were
of up to 160
those.
feet. And even though it's a collective group of tiny
From that,
animals,
no.
its length could humble a blue
Fine.
whale, making it technically the longest creature on
Jesus.
the planet. Or at best, a modest second, since the bootlace ribbon worm has been reported to reach
I don't like that.
180 feet in length. And it's toxic
But why?
because the ocean, and of course it is. With
Yeah.
nasty smelling mucus potent enough to life deprive the crabs it likes to eat. Like I said, whether it's Lucifer's tapeworm or a flying spaghetti creature, there be monsters. And it gets so much worse than a giant worm. Because
Really?
as terrifying as the deep sea is, it's also nasty. And there might not be anything more repulsive than the hagfish. This Lugi linguini feeds on the rotting corpses and carcasses that sink down into its domain. And since they don't have any actual teeth, the graveyard
yeah,
guppy
I don't-
feeds by
I don't like
sliding into an
hagfish.
opening and eating the decomposing body from the inside
Fitting name, though,
out.
I
And you would
guess.
think that something that eats like a casket wouldn't have to worry about getting put on a plate itself. Again, you're giving the ocean too much credit. As self-defense, the hagfish will sweat buckets of slime, a phlegm jacket that's thick enough to clog the gills of anything hungry enough to F around and unlucky enough to find out. To the point where this is the end game of a truck transporting hagfish on the highway, crashing. Now, you've definitely seen this picture before, but have you ever stopped and
I
asked
haven't
yourself
seen this
what they were
picture.
doing there in
I've
the
seen
first
something
place?
similar.
You remember how I said nothing that eats like a hagfish should ever have to worry about getting eaten? Well, simple. For these hagfish, their final destination were dinner plates in Asian countries such as South Korea, where they're considered a delicacy.
I mean, I
now,
bet
I'm
they
not
do
one to
taste
judge
good,
other
though.
cultures, but we seem to have a habit of constantly trying to
yeah,
eat
that
all
looks
the things
good.
nature went out of its way to tell us not to. But one thing you won't see as a main course is something ironically named after a fruit. The sea cucumber is like the hagfish, in that its meal prep consists of all the things we normally flush, burn, or bury. All the soul evacuated
These
bodies
guys
that
aren't
sink down to the ocean
scary?
floor instantly get put on the cucumber's grocery list. It's a literal bottom feeder, and I mean that
Why-
since they'll also make a meal out of feces. But like with vultures, if Thanos had beef with sea cucumbers, the world would become an infinitely more disgusting place. That's not the only way sea cucumbers contribute to society.
why are these
Also
guys
often used as a
down
protective
here?
bunker
They're not
for fish.
scary.
And, well, let's just say they break in through the back door. Oh yeah, it's a violation of the highest
Okay, never
natural
mind.
order. It gets worse
I
when
understand
a
now.
pearlfish decides to have a playdate right next to its prostate. I don't even know if they have a prostate, but you get what I mean. And if that makes you uncomfortable, here's an ad to give you time to mentally prepare for what's next.
Okay.
This adorable little guy is known as a basket star. It's a type
Wait.
of brittle star and an echinoderm,
No, where's the
which
ad?
actually makes it a close
wait.
cousin of the sea
No.
cucumber. If you ever
My ad.
learned about fractals in geometry, then that's why the repeating pattern of branching
Kinda cool
arms
looking.
might look familiar. It's also why the US is really wasting $20 billion a year looking into space, because the real ET is happening right here. Because of the unsightly way basket stars get from A to B, they've also earned the nickname sea snakes. I feel itchy all of a sudden.
Sea
However,
snakes.
even though it looks like something Lucifer would
looks
use to
like,
pleasure himself, they eat mostly zooplankton and are pretty much harmless.
Yeah, it
for the
kinda
most
just looks
part.
like
And
coral.
honestly, that pretty much describes 80% of the nonsense in the deep sea, only really harmful to your peace of mind. Like take the frilled shark. Having been around for 80-something million years, not
Look at
only
the
is a
little
frilled
guy,
shark a
he's
living fossil, it's
smiling.
likely nature's rough draft beta version of sharks today. Also, don't let this video fool you. They can grow to a respectable 6 feet
This
long.
fish?
Also, they can be pregnant for 3.5 years, which honestly
3.5
makes about as much sense as
years.
everything else down there. And in terms of your mental health, the frilled shark is pretty harmless. Until you look them in the
them
mouth. The devil's
peepers
fleshlight
are a
has
little
hundreds of
scary,
needle-like
though.
teeth to ensure that anything that gets
Hold on,
caught
what
in
did you
there,
say?
put them in the mouth. The devil's fleshlight has hundreds of
okay.
needle-like teeth to ensure that anything that gets caught in there doesn't get a second chance to pursue happiness. And for a shark that's been around long enough to have attended Saturn's wedding,
Looks like he's in pain.
I don't know why, but every picture of them looks like they're struggling with their own existence.
Yeah.
Like I said though, they're not a threat to humans. But like I also said, therapy ain't cheap, so if you don't want to end up on a couch, don't look a frilled shark in the mouth. But yeah, you'd be surprised at just how many types of
Bob.
sharks you'll find in the same neighborhood SpongeBob got stranded in that one time. You have 20-foot sleeper sharks that are somehow able to use stealth to just spawn and inhale sustenance like a water
look at all-
Kirby.
look at all the
Speaking
little
of
dudes swimming
sleepers,
around.
In 2015, a Pacific sleeper was recorded in the Solomons Island. Why is that important? Well, its home address was right under an active volcano, proving that if any animal had plot armor, it'd be sharks. Then you have the ghost shark, which, okay, yep, you got me, isn't an actual shark, it's a close cousin known as a chimera.
Ghost shark.
The ghost part though, that's on brand. They kind of remind me of the dry bones fish from Mario.
Oh,
The
yeah.
ghost otter shark doesn't even have the teeth you'd expect it to have, but instead they have plates that they use to grind up food. But since nature's constantly overcompensating, chimeras
Kinda
do
cool
have
looking.
venomous spines that are harmful to more than just your mental well-being. But by far the weirdest thing about them, chimeras have a tenaculum on their forehead. A tenaculum is a reproductive organ, meaning this fish has a on his forehead,
Oh.
venom and that
What a
aside, this
dickhead.
fish fresh out of Tim Burton's wet dream is actually pretty cool looking. And I'm just gonna say it, I think they're cute, and
Aw.
I'm perfectly fine with standing on that hill alone. However,
Yeah, they're
I don't think
kinda
you'll find a
cute.
single soul on this next shark's hill.
Feast your eyes on the goblin
Ew.
shark, a demon dog
Oh,
looking
yeah, these
fish with
guys.
a mouth that snaps like nobody's business. They're rarely seen but are known to live in oceans all around the world, at depths of up to 4,200 feet below the surface of the ocean, and are estimated to get to 18 feet long, which is really big for a deep sea shark. You might have seen videos online of their jaws just
Yeah.
fully ejecting from their brain case in a process called slingshot feeding. It's kind of what they're known for. Their upper and lower jaws lunge forward away from the skull, engulfing
Yeah,
their
it's
prey. I know
cool,
it
but
probably
also
seems
kinda
ridiculous and
terrifying.
almost alien, but it's actually not uncommon. Most fishes have jaws that aren't entirely attached. One might
Yeah.
argue that the goblin shark is the most extreme example of this look, until you see a video of the sling jaw wrasse, who
Sling jaw
use
wrasse.
suction feeding to snatch up their prey. They look like they have a trombone stuck in their mouth. Goblin sharks have a particularly
I just
to snatch
imagine
up
like
their
a
prey. They look like they have a trombone stuck in their mouth. Goblin sharks have a particularly
That's the
long
sound it
snout, and
makes.
it's not for nothing. They have sensory structures, pores all over it that help them locate
Yeah,
their prey,
similar
like squid,
to
fish,
hammerhead
and crustaceans.
sharks.
And I am personally grateful I am not a squid, fish or crustacean.
Me
Yeah,
neither.
goblin's the right word for the only shark in the world with a receding gum line. But you gotta admit, yeeting your own jaw to catch calories is pretty metal.
That one
You're
looks like
gonna
a little
find that
baby.
a lot of the creatures rolling in it deep have
Why
evolved
is
some
he
of the most
biting the
creative
arm?
ways of bagging groceries.
Stop that.
Probably the most popular is the fish that nearly turned Nemo into an orphan. The anglerfish has two defining personality
these
traits,
guys-
and one of them is that fishing lure hanging right in front of those life-canceling
I was a lot more terrified of these until I saw how big they were. They're like very small.
jaws. That light actually comes from bioluminescent bacteria shacking up
Lights
inside a
are cool,
modified
though.
fin. So when a bite-sized light work swims up to the light thinking it just cops some easy protein, the angler ensures that some fish out there never sees its father again. The other thing anglerfish got clout for is their mating habits. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna get into it, just know that if your marriage looks anything like this,
I'll get into it. The males are born really small, and they attach themselves to the females and then get absorbed by the female.
you're gonna need both a divorce and a restraining order. And you know what? Intensive therapy on top of that, expeditiously. Nemo's paralysis demon isn't the only deep-sea creature to weaponize light. This distinguished gentleman is known as a
Oh.
stoplight loose jaw.
Look at that little
His defining
guy.
trait is that it uses a red light to hunt,
Stoplight
which
loose
turns out
jaw.
to be a massive cheat code, since the longer the
Oh.
wavelength of a color, the less energy that wavelength has, and the faster it gets absorbed by water. And since the color red has the longest wavelength out of all of them, it's the first one to get absorbed. This is why red light can't reach the deep sea, and the animals living in the abyss that are red actually appear black, which makes it easier for them to hide from predatory smoke. But with a stoplight using red as a searchlight, it's pretty much cracked at this version of hide and seek.
Wow, that's
Not to
cool.
mention, since most of the life down there can't even see red, it's able to catch bodies while also not giving up its location to predators or the prey it packs up. This fish really evolved a whole wall hack and a real-life invisibility cloak. Tell me that ain't crazy. And that
That's
freakish overbite
crazy
ensures that
cool.
once prey is found, it's lost. Forever. But why hunt prey when you could just sit and wait for it to come to you? That's the entire playbook for the deep sea lizardfish. Just look at that smile. You know he's on nefarious timing.
So,
and at over 2 feet
looking
long,
so
he lizardfish.
devious.
Just look at that smile. You know he's on
What's he
nefarious
about to
timing.
do?
And at over 2 feet long, they earned the title of being one of the premier apex predators of the deep sea. As a habitual camper, they lie waiting for life to pass them by before they lunge
They
and
got-
use hypodermic
their
needles for
their
teeth
mouth
to
is similar
cancel
to
it.
the
And with
frilled
apex
shark.
standing for anyone providing smoke gets extinguished, lizardfish don't hesitate to turn their own kind into coffin fodder. And with the whole point of those teeth being to hold struggling, panicking prey in place, they make sure they don't live long enough to learn from their mistake. But as much of a therapy bill this gecko guppy's mugshot might be, it might not even be the worst headshot in the ocean. Not as long as this
Ugh.
is still a factor. I don't know anyone who would waste the oxygen trying to defend this.
I would. Many say
Oh.
this is a face only a mother could love. Well, then maybe he is my son. This is the deep sea telescope fish, one of the most stunning creatures of the
okay,
deep
I
tropical
apologize for
oceans. They're found at depths of about
rearing
1,600
at
to
your son.
6,600 feet below the surface of the ocean. I can't say that normally.
Surface of the ocean.
And like you'll see if you look up photos of them online, they are often photographed at unfortunate angles that don't do them any justice. They orient themselves upwards, hanging out vertically in the water column, as they use their specially adapted eyes to hunt for the silhouettes of their prey. There are two species of telescope fish, Gigantora indica
they are
and
interesting.
Gigantora chuni. Don't be
give
fooled by
them
their
that.
genus name, which makes them sound like they're gigantic. That is not the case at all. Indica only gets to about 8 inches long and chuni a measly 6. They are just
Well, hey.
little guys. Gigantora actually translates 8 inches
That's
long and
it.
chuni a measly 6. They are just
Editor note, I'd say they're well above average, but that's just me. I agree.
little guys. Gigantora actually translates to big tail, specifically. They are about half tail. But if they happen to latch onto a snack that's a bit bigger than their own size, that's no problem at all. They underwent a series of skeletal reductions that allow for more room to just fold it in half. That's right.
Really?
They're expert folders. In 1925, scientists found a 5.5 inch long viper fish inside the stomach of a 3 inch long telescope fish. They described it as neatly folded, an incredible quality possessed by the lovely telescope fish.
They're great
Yeah, I'm sure if
folders.
we gave it Blistex and a hairline restoration.
Incredible quality possessed by the lovely telescope fish.
Yeah, I'm sure if we gave
That was
it
a Dead by
Blistex and a
Daylight
hairline
skill check
restoration
noise.
surgery, he'd be cute, but that's just me. That being said, there's a lot of pretty dope things just chilling in the deep. Take the barrel-eyed fish, the fish with a transparent head that means it can spot ops
Oh,
or
yeah.
prey directly above it, thanks to those two green gummy-looking
I
orbs that
wanna
are
eat
actually
'em.
its eyes. Or the ultra-rare giant phantom
Oh, wow.
jellyfish, equipped with 30-foot arms that makes this ET
That's
understudy the
beautiful.
length of a whale shark. And when I say rare, I mean
Whale
this jelly's
shark.
only been seen like 100 times in the history of mankind, so the fact that you're watching this right now is kind of wild. Then you have the deep sea
cool.
Dumbo
Oh,
octopus that copes with
Dumbo
stress by turning itself
octopus.
into a ball to discourage predators from eating it. And if this right here looks familiar, yeah, right to his thighs.
Oh,
The vampire
that
squid
would
does the
make
inverse,
sense.
as they'll turn themselves inside out and into their own personal panic room whenever they're pressed by a possible predator. And how about a sea pig for you? Take everything I said about sea cucumbers and forget it for a second, because honestly, they're just really cute in a way I can't fully explain. But it's not hard to see what makes this squid instant serotonin. Rosia pacifica, or the stubby squid, is actually more like a cuttlefish. It's also a cuddly fish, and it's nature's apology letter for the sheer trauma it saturated the ocean with. It's actually real, and those arts and crafts looking eyes help it catch prey on a nocturnal schedule. It's also important as an environmental indicator, since scientists will often study their responses to changes in water pH and use that to determine how polluted the water is around them. Which you would think would earn this anime octopus the respect of the scientific community. Well, you'd be wrong. There's a video where some scientists found one, and let me just say, not even Hiroshima got roasted that hard. But that's gonna do it for this video. Make sure you go ahead and drink water, hug your moms, go subscribe to Lindsay's channel, link will be in the description. Shout out to Lindsay for being in this video, and I'm gonna see y'all in the next one.
Nice.
It's like fake. Like Davy Jones.
They look like googly eyes.
They look like they painted them on.
Yeah.
It looks so fake.
So some other aerobic team just came before and just left it here.
It's like some little kid dropped their toy.
Trash.
Oh man.
He's awesome though.
He is awesome.
That's a good focus right there.
Seriously,
Great
what's with
focus,
his eyes?
Justin.
It's freaking me out.
I want to see him move.
It's a
Do something.
Do something.
Flash your lights.
Alright, well. It was a great video. You know, not too many. I wouldn't say these were horrors. These were just some cute little guys. Make sure you go check out Casual Geographic as well as the original video. Both will be linked at the top of the description. And thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.